everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm out in the garden adding a few new plants to this shade area that I started working on. I'll post a link to the video that talks about some of the shrubs that I planted in this area. So I did plant two ruby spice clethras in here, and I also planted two Itea Virginica Little Henry by Proven Winners in this area. So what I'm trying to do is kind of plant and create a little walkway that comes out into my backyard, and really like add more things along here to create a shade garden. So this is just the beginnings of the shade garden, and I wanted to like add a little bit of structure around here to show you the plants that I was adding in this area. So the first plant that I am, and for some reason I did start planting it more symmetrical on both sides, and I kind of like it this way, especially because it will be like a pathway, so it'll be nice to have a bit of symmetry. I'm usually not a symmetrical kind of a gardener. I like the different plants and kind of mixing it in, but I think in this situation it will look nice if there is symmetry. I'm going to try it out and see how it looks. So the first plant that I got two of these, one for each side, is this June Hosta. So this one I was really drawn to the foliage because it is a beautiful blue green foliage with a nice yellowish center. So the more light it gets, I think the more yellow it's going to get, but in a dapple shade to shade situation, it's going to be more chartreuse green, which is fine. I love the colors on this hosta and the variation of the leaves. It is not deeply variegated, but I like the subtle, I think in the shade it's going to have this subtle variation with the blue and the greens, which I really like. So again, this hosta is called a June hosta, and specifics on it are really hostas do really well in shade. So this area where I'm going to put it is going to get mostly like dappled kind of shade, but to shade, so I think it'll do well here. This is not a very big hosta. It will get to about 70 centimeters in width, and not too tall either, so 40 centimeters in height, and it'll bloom midsummer to late summer. So this one will get really pretty light violet flowers in summer. So I think it will be nice to have this hosta here, one on each side, and I can always add more hostas in this section next year as I find the ones that I love. Really there isn't much to planting a hosta. I mean, make sure the soil is loosened, it's you know, got a lot of organic material, and I'm really just going to use my native soil and plant them this year. I will add some manure to it next year as I'm building the soil up. So for now, it is quite late in the season, so I'm just going to get these plants in the ground, and that's the plan for these. So like I said, I have two of these June hostas that I'm going to plant, and the other plants that I got was this lungwort. So this lungwort is called Raspberry Splash. I got 4 of these plants. I'm going to do 2 on each side, and I got another variety which is called Dark Vader. So Dark Vader has more of a thicker leaf, as you can see. This leaf is much thicker, different shape, and Raspberry Splash has a much thinner leaf. So I thought adding different shapes of leaves in here will be nice. So that, which is why I got 2 of these different varieties. So flower wise, I think they'll both be around the same kind of flowers. This one will have more purple and pink flowers, and Dark Vader will probably have a little bit of a blue as well in it. So I think coloration wise, bloom time wise, they all bloom, all varieties bloom in early spring. So I think they start blooming in April all the way till June for me, and then once they're done blooming, if you cut back the foliage, it'll flush out new leaves that'll look good all season. So that's what these plants are going to do. I had two that I planted last year, and I really enjoyed the spring flowers. They really look pretty in the spring. They are low mounding, they form a clump. I think it can be as big as 2 feet, the clump, so it can spread, and you can dig it up and divide it as it grows, and you can make more plants from this plant. So it's really nice. It kind of adds more like a ground cover feel once it's done blooming, which is nice. And I really like this speckling on the leaves. Like, it's got this it's called Pulmonaria or lungwort because of the way the leaves look. They represent a diseased lung, and it was believed that this plant would cure that. It would be a cure for that, which I think is a myth. So but I think parts of this plant are still edible, and yeah, so I think this I just love how it brightens the shade garden with the speckled leaves and the texture and the variation it offers, even against the Hosta and also this Itea that I planted. So I'm just really excited. So I have 4 of these plants and 2 of these. So I'm going to do a grouping of 3 and 3 on each side. So 2 of these raspberry splash and 1 of this dark Vader on each side. And I'll show you how I'm planning to arrange these, and I'm going to get them in the ground and show you what this little path ends up looking like. It's really sunny today, so very hard for me to show you exactly because there's a lot of glare, but I'm going to try my best to show you what this looks like. So here it is. I hope you can see the grouping and all this sunshine. So here is the dark Vader Pulmonaria lungwort, and then those are the 2 raspberry splash Pulmonaria. So I'm going to put this in this section here, and then here is the Itea that I already planted, and then that's where I'm going to put the June Hosta as well, and that's where the ruby spice clethra is. So it's the same that I'm going to mimic on that side. I have the Hosta there, and then I have the 2 raspberry splash Pulmonarias, and then I have the 1 dark Vader Pulmonaria here. So I'm going to get these in the ground, and I'll give you one final look at how all this area looks, and hoping to get some mulch in this area as well, and try to create like a little bit of a pathway here just to get it started for next year. So I'll show you when this is all done. You can see this June Hosta was pretty root bound, so what I've done is I've just loosened out the roots a little bit. That's what I like to do whenever I see plants that are quite root bound. These roots were like really coming outside the pot at the bottom, so I've just loosened up the roots so that I can place it in this planting hole, and then all I'm going to do is backfill with the soil that I dug out of the hole, and really put this soil back in here and get this one planted in the ground. I really love how this looks in this spot, and I think it'll get sufficient sunshine but not a lot, and then go in shade for most of the afternoon. So I think this would be a really nice spot for it. I'm already loving it in this location, so that's what I'm going to do, backfill this and get this thing planted in the ground. So here it is. The June Hosta is planted in the ground. Both of these are planted in the spot that I wanted to have them. I think this gives you a good view of what these look like. Really liking how this is looking, and how it's kind of symmetrical but not, and I like the repetition of the plants in here. So I'm going to go ahead and plant the Pulmonaria, and I'll show you what that looks like. Planting the ruby splash Pulmonaria next, and if you wanted, you could have divided this plant to make 2 different plants. You could find a natural section where you could probably split this plant and divide it. So there is, like, if I was to do it, I would probably divide it somewhere in here and get multiple plants out of this one, but I'm choosing not to do that today because I do want it to have a dense mound right off the start, and I think I will probably divide this in a couple of years or 3 years, depending on how this grows. So yeah, so again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen out these roots at the bottom, That's what I'm gonna do, and I will show you. So just lightly remove, just loosen out these roots so that they can start attaching themselves to the new area. See all these roots here? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna lightly loosen them. Just be gentle with this process. I mean, they say it's not necessary to do that, but I like doing it, especially when plants have been sitting in a pot for a really long time. I find that it just helps them out a little bit to stretch out these roots and kind of establish themselves in the new soil. So that's what I'm going to do. Tease out the roots a little bit. That's what I will do with this plant, gently, and then I'm going to place it in the planting hole, fill it with the soil that I dug out, nothing special, and help it get started in this area. So just tease it out a bit, and that's it. Really easy to do, nothing to it. That's it, no more. And I'm gonna just put it in this planting hole. Already this looks really nice in here, and I'm gonna backfill it with the soil that I dug out, and get this one in the ground. And I'm gonna finish planting all the pulmonarias that I have in the same way, and I'll show you what this bed looks once it's all planted. So here it is. I'm all done planting this new shade garden bed. Here are the 2 raspberry splash pulmonarias. Here is the dark Vader pulmonaria, and I have echoed the same on this side. Although if you notice, both these sides are symmetrical, but not quite, because the spacing is a bit less on the right side compared to the left side. But that's okay. As the plants grow and fill in, it will have a feeling of somewhat cohesiveness, which is what I was going for in this kind of like a walkway type bed. So so these are in the ground, and I also planted the 2 June hostas. There's one here and there's one here as well. So they are kind of on opposite sides of this bed, just in front of the ruby spice clethra shrubs, and then I have the 2 little Henriettas as well over here. And then I have I also added a couple more hostas here from other sections of my garden that I did not need in that bed, and I thought it would be really nice to add them and add a little bit more heaviness on this side, because as you notice on this side I do have other hostas and Solomon seal in this other bed, so it kind of makes this side more heavier than this side. So I just wanted to bring some of that in here just to balance it out. And hostas do take some time to grow. It'll take about 4 to 5 years before they reach their full size, recommended size. So, and if you notice, I also mulched this area with some bark mulch, the simple bark mulch, and I had a little alligator kind of stepping stone that I added in the middle to create a walkway. So this stepping stone was kind of with the house when I got the house, as well as this stone. It was here, and for the longest time the stone was kind of sitting here. Very hard to remove it from this spot because it's settled in the ground, and I was always wondering what to do with the stone. And now I love it in this garden because it kind of looks as though the garden was designed and the stone was placed in here, which is what I love. And I also love that these 2 elements are part of the history of this house, and I get to keep it and honor it. And there is something very very nice about doing that, because it reminds you of your humble beginnings when there was nothing in this garden, but these 2 pieces just offered that that sense of joy and connection in the garden. And now I'm able to connect these pieces back to some beautiful plants and shrubs, and I'm hoping that these plants will be happy in this little area and this walkway. And as I mulch this around here, it also gives me an idea of the shape of the bed that I want this to be eventually. So I think it is a nice way, because nothing really grows there because of the deep shade from these trees. There isn't much that grows under here, so it's okay. I'm gonna go with the flow. I've fought for a few years trying to grow grass in there, but it just always becomes muddy and very scantily laden with grass. So it's not really doing much for me, and I think these plants are going to add a lot more interest and joy for me in this garden, and it's okay to go with that. And I think I will maintain grass in the middle section of this garden, and that's it. And the rest of my beds are going to be around this grass area. So yeah, so this is this concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this transformation with me and followed me along. This was kind of a last minute you know, fall bed that I decided to put in and get started because these plants were at a really good price, and you know, they were just sitting in these stores and I knew that they are going to get thrown out. So able to negotiate a good price and put them in the ground. And I'm hoping that, you know, especially in part shade, it's very hard to find things that are going to establish and grow, especially shrubs. So really happy to add some of the native clethra in here, as well as a couple of the Itias. Beautiful stunning fall color on it already, and I really like this little shrub. It's going to get about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, which is perfect for this area because I don't want something too tall blocking my view of the rest of the garden. So, and the other thing that makes me excited is that I have this space now to think. I will add some heucheras in here to add a little bit more purple and other colors here, as well as bulbs over the years. So it's exciting, and I'm glad that I was able to start it this year and share this transformation with you. I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe to my channel for more updates and more to come in the next season and beyond. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope everyone has a fabulous day wherever you are.